All right, hello and welcome to That's the Point. This is the best place to come to talk about precision and positioning technology. My name is Corey Meyer, flying solo today because we are going to go into the maintenance side of things today, and we are actually going to talk about the humble Tribrach. That's right. So this is something that is a part of most optical total stations, whether it's the RTS, the RI, all of these units, both these units we have on the wall here, they both use Tribrachs. And the Tribrach is really a workhorse component of your total station platform because it allows you to get it onto the tripod, quickly level it up, and get working. The thing is that it's also an often overlooked item within your larger tool set, and that's why we want to take a chance to just briefly talk about it today. Just maybe some food for thought, or maybe even just refreshing some ideas that you might have already learned through the School of Hard Knocks. But the goal is that we can get as many years of useful life out of this Tribrach as we possibly can, and you can do that. It's a very robust piece of equipment. Doesn't look like there's that many moving parts, but there are two specific items that we want to talk about. And the first of which is this idea of the locking mechanism within it. And the most common issue we see with Tribrachs when they come in for service with the unit as a whole is we find that the Tribrach cannot be removed from the larger total station assembly. And you flip this lock, we've got this lock assembly over here that we turn to release the legs, and this just doesn't move. It seems like it's almost welded shut and welded locked. And that's because there is actually some metallurgy processes going on here. And if we all think back to that lovely class I'm sure we all took on metallurgy, two different kinds of metals can and do interact. And there is a sort of almost welding process that takes place. So if we look at the legs on the bottom of all of our total stations or the RI, we'll see that we have these locking legs here, which is totally normal. And when these are placed set down into the Tribrach, they actually wrap around and they lock with a different type of metal. So the easiest way to ensure that your Tribrach continues to be able to release the RTS is to simply, once a month, once every 2 months, just exercise that. Just release the Tribrach. Just do the step we just did. Just take it off, put it back on, and that'll make sure that over time, moisture and everything else just doesn't start to cause a reaction between those, and those two plates, those two metals don't begin to interact and begin to get welded together. The other thing that we see is once you get the Tribrach off, as we're talking about the same release, it's good to just feel how that feels. It should be a nice, smooth, almost like a gliding movement. And if we look inside of here, we can see the cam assembly. There's probably still a little bit of that factory grease left in there. They use a nice lithium grease. I realize that's not something that you typically have on a project or a job site or in a job trailer. But what we would say is don't use anything crazy. If you do feel this being kind of restrictive or gritty or anything like that, it is a key to lube it, but I wouldn't hit it with a WD-40 or something like that, only because the WD-40 has a bad habit of going everywhere. In this case, we do have an optical plummet on this unit, which would cause another set of problems. But it's nice to just put some 3-in-1 oil. Just drop a little bit of 3-in-1 oil on there, get that to free up. And of course, when this goes back in for service, your service center can also take another look at that. But that pretty much takes care of all of the locking mechanism elements. The other thing we have is the circular bubble. And this is just a core site, right? This is nothing that we're going to use to really level up the system, because the RTS and the units do have electronic levels that have a far higher resolution than these circular bubbles. But it is a nice reference point to get started with your setup over on a tripod or your over-and-done point. It's nice to be able to have this first course reference. You want to make sure that it's close. Now, this is user serviceable, right? There are 3 screws on the bottom of this. But really what you want to do, and the thing that we like to tell our users in the field is, this is just a fantastic first step. So all we do to check this is we can use the phase 2 adjustment, as we've seen in other videos, to quickly set up the RTS using the Tribrach, and then just remove the Tribrach again and see where your level bubble is in relation to what you had already set up on the higher resolution RTS side. If it's way out or if it's way adjusted, that's just something you probably want to get tweaked back at the service center. We have a way of doing it that's a little bit more efficient, because you can adjust these. We're not saying you can't. But if it's way out, it can be a little bit of a process to get these tweaked, whereas we invert it and do all this other stuff, shoot to the ceiling. It's this whole process. But we are able to quickly and easily adjust the Tribrachs to make sure that you've got that course site. But your gun one, your total station unit leveling system is still right there. And that's still the one that we want to use for reference. So that's the 2 things, right? Exercising your legs, making sure that it's lubed up with some simple 3-1 oil if it feels gritty, and then also just double checking your circular bubble to make sure that it's at least in the ballpark to give you an initial setup. And of course, if you have any questions or you can't get your Tribrach off, just make sure you reach out to your local building point representative. They'll be happy to work with the service center to make sure that you're back up and running and you have a fully removable and usable Tribrach. And don't forget, smash that subscribe button to stay up to date with the latest tips, tricks, and pointers. We'll see you next time on That's the Point.